Having to be there and tend and really monitor and keep your system living and thriving, I know that takes a lot of work, and thanks to everyone, commends to people who are fighting that good fight, keeping it organic. Stoked to be here today at the first Organic Cup. Thanks, this is Scott, I'm Eric. We're a part of Organics Alive, and today I'm going to try not to talk too much about Organics Alive and be sales pitchy, but more just kind of share with you about our experience, my experience personally within the cannabis industry, and a little bit of our experience and our road as a company and what we're taking to kind of be pure and be as a clean a company and as genuine as we can in total. And yeah, I just want to start by saying thanks to Gage, and like I said, it's an honor to be on the stage with like Jeremy from Build the Soil who's up here, and Steve and Dragonfly and with Gage, and thanks to Gage for putting this on for sure. Yeah, but so just so we kind of get a gauge, who out here would be like considering themselves a commercial end or trying to get their product to sell to the market? Who would be like a commercial sale grower or more of a personal grower or personal leaf? Okay, so we got mostly personal growers. Cool, right on. And then so who would who would consider themselves a new grower or versus a new grower? Who's a new grower? Newbies. Fairly newbie or experienced. We got more experienced people. Cool. Right on. Good to know. Just wanted to see how much detail we want to get into about growing and all that, because obviously now like organic has kind of stepped up and is kind of the choice for cannabis among end users. The salt thing is getting the bad rap, and now organic's really pushing to the forefront. When I started with Organics Alive in 2004, honestly, we were one of the first organic companies within the hydroponic industry per se. My partner Todd, who is supposed to be here speaking today, he had a baby over the weekend, so congratulations to him and his family. But he was one of the first to write an article into a hydroponic publication called Maximum Yield. I'm sure we've all heard about it. In 2005, he wrote an article called Dirty Brown Water versus Microbial-Rich Solution. And that came out in the industry and kind of like dispelled the truth that like microbes are good to go into the soil and can be used in indoor gardening and in hydroponic applications, and went on to write a couple more articles with Maximum Yield. That was the days in the Maximum Yield shows when you couldn't even discuss cannabis. You had to talk about growing tomatoes. It was a pretty interesting time then. And then in 2006, we really focused on biology, having the concentration of biology, the balance of biology, and the diversity of biology, and taking that and being able to put that into systems. And most of these systems at that time were inert. We were just taking bagged soil, Fox Farm or whatever, throwing it in the container, watering with whatever bottle. We weren't giving it actual living microbes yet. And now, so basically I started building bioextractors and brewers in my garage, and we were selling them all over the place through California, and those were the beginning days of tea brewers in the retail market. We had them moving pretty well, and so that was 2004. I started building we call them the bioextractor. I started building bioextractors, so I've been building them ever since then. We've upgraded. We took the technology from farm scale, which was 500-gallon brewers and large mixes, and we brought it down to the consumer size. We brought it down to a 1.5-gallon brewer, a 4-gallon brewer that anybody can use in their garden, in their grow room. We have a 50-gallon, and now we've gone into a little more technical with getting away from plastics. We're using stainless steel brewers, which are forever lasting. You can get them 100% clean. They're very tech, and they're kind of the spaceship, the top of the line of the bioextractors now that we're able to use on a commercial scale to make sure that you're getting that clean, consistent product. And so our journey as a company has really been guided through the cannabis industry. That's where we started. And then my journey personally, I started growing in '98, moved out, that was outside, got my first lights going in like 2001 with little fluorescent lights that I got from Lowe's, and then finally learned what a hydroponic store was and got a real light, you know, and then been growing ever since. And I have a real unique position within the industry because I get asked to go to all sorts of different types of facilities and grows and operations and all over the country, and even, you know, all over the world. We've been able to help write SOPs with these with people working from a one light and a little tent all the way up to large scale hemp now, and moving into that scalability is making sure that we're able to take a product to the market that is just as pure and just as good for that individual who wants to grow their 6 plants and make sure that they're 100% organic, that they're not taking any toxins into their body because they're recovering from something, they're using this as a medicine, or whether they're using it for recreation purposes. You know, it's all about growing the most clean product, and now being able to take that into scale is difficult because scale is usually done in synthetic ways and salts, and big ag is led by, you know, the simple methods that make things that are considered more economical or more efficient and more effective. But in reality, if we're able to go back to the basics, kind of like is what's been said, you know, being able to go back and mimic nature and go back and really follow those laws of what's been set, like with the soil food web, and with being able to provide, you know, everything that build the soil has, making sure that you're taking care of the cover crop and the microbials, and being able to put in the right inputs, and being able to tend for your land or your space, whether it's a small space or a large space, whichever it is. And, you know, Scott could probably attest, you know, to more about anything. I mean, he's, not to boast, but he's a cup-winning grower himself, so he's been through it, and it's really nice to have him on our team right now, and being able to back up and say, look, like, you know, we're here trying to bring out the most pure way for people to grow, and when being able to combine all this knowledge and product that you're able to get from here and all the vendors, and really it's not any one way is any solution. It's by being able to take multiple, and diversity is really kind of the main theme here. Is the more knowledge that you have, and the more diversity that you have within the microbes, within your plant life, and within your just being, you're going to be more apt to be successful in the end in your operation. Yeah, so let's see here. You know, as a company, we've seen the progression go from the salt in the bottle now moving into the organics. And the original thought of organics was that, yeah, it's not viable, you know, to do on even a small scale versus a large scale because of the cost. You know, it's just cost inhibitive, and there's too many steps, and you know, it's just unobtainable. Well, I think that all those are fallacies, because once you put into place the right practices, it's actually more cost effective to be growing organically if you're on a small scale or a large scale, and it's also going to yield less problems for you. If I didn't have biology within my system from the very beginning, I wouldn't have been a successful grower yet in the end, because the biology for us, for the way I look at growing the plant, is in 4 boxes. You have your it's a 4-box system. You have your nutrient management system, your energy management system, your plant management system, and all that tailored into your crops. And so your energy management system is all of like the humic acids, fulvic acids, and amino acids, and all these chains and cell building blocks that are so crucial for life, that need to be present for a living solution, a living compound. So you want to make sure that you're adding these energy compounds that are working on molecular levels to help with cell division and production and growth. And then with the nutrient management system, you need to make sure that you've got your main nutrients available, NPK. You know, whether you're putting that in through a source of compost or a source of organic, like a bone meal, blood meal, feather meal, manure, you name it. There's a million ways to get NPK down there for the biology to break off. The key is you need to have the right presence of nutrients available for the plant that you're running. And then you have your your crop management system. And the crop management system is really done by the microorganisms, and these microorganisms help facilitate the plant, and they're what really, like this you've heard already before, they help protect the plant. And so these protections of the plant are offered by the microbes, because they can actually help outfend the space for pathogens. And that's what we try to do when we brew up our microbial tea and we add it to our solution. What we're doing is we're taking up all the parking spots in the soil with beneficial microbes, so that there's no room for a pathogen to come in and take over the system. And by repeating that, it makes sure that you have the right environment and the right soil mixture and the right all the right practices in place, and then being able to make sure that you have the biology set, because without that you won't have the right biology set. That's when you get into these super plant modes where your plant becomes resistant and resilient, and pathogens, you may fly into the room but they won't want to attack your plant, because your plant has been able to soak up so many enzymes and so much beneficial nutrients from the microorganisms that it literally has defense modes for the plant. And I mean, Scott, you've probably seen that a couple times in your garden. Oh, yeah. Too. It's like Steve said, the more fungal that he put in the plant, the more resistance that he saw, and that's just the way it runs with the symbiotic relationship for the plant. And really, that's making sure that you're taking care of those three systems, that you have your energy management system, your nutrient management system, and your crop management system in place. To make sure you're checking off those boxes tailored to the genetics that you're running, because every strain has a different behavior, wants a food at maybe a different time, and wants to be pinched at a different time or pulled at a different time. So you really want to make sure you know your cultivar at the same time that you're working with. Try to make sure you're sticking with the strain. It's always difficult, I found, to grow in a room and you have one Blue Dream, one GG4, and one Kush over here, and they're all growing different levels, finishing different times, and you're like, oh shit, what do I do? I'm too early over here, I'm going to be too late over there, and then one gets mold, the other one doesn't get mold. So really the key at that point is to nail down your cultivar so that you know your feeding cycle and when to deliver everything properly in the right amount of time. And really from there, you're almost guaranteed success. I mean, there's so much knowledge here today and yesterday that's been passed out, that really, if you stick to those basic guidelines of making sure that your environment's right, making sure that your soil is tended to properly with the right aeration mix, with the right microbial balance, and then making sure that you're feeding the plant to the soil, so that the soil is able to provide for the plant's need exactly when it happens, because these communications with the microbes and the nutrients are happening on micro and nano proportions and seconds, and always cycling. So it's important to be always providing and making sure that everything's available for that symbiotic relationship that needs to be taking place in order to reach this super plant phase. I really like what Gage said yesterday, or Mike said yesterday, about how he likes to give his plants what he would ingest too, because why would he want to give them something that he wouldn't want to ingest when he's going to go ingest that plant in the end? And with us, that's what we've definitely tried to create as a product line, is we actually can be considered a vegan product line. We don't have any animal byproduct, we don't have any manures or any waste in our products. Everything's microbial based, plant based, and fermented, and so even worm castings are considered vegan, because worms aren't an animal, they're a nematode. And so making sure that your inputs are clean, and that kind of goes back to you want to know your grower per se, so that you know that your cannabis is clean. Well, when you go to grow cannabis, you want to know your sources of your inputs to make sure that those are clean. Just like what Jeremy was saying yesterday. Also, you want to make sure that you know who your compost is coming from, because all of a sudden you can say, oh, compost is the best thing that we need to put down compost, but then you go put it down and you're actually really hurting your plant in the end. You're going to cook it from the salt and the phosphorus and burn it and set yourself back 4 weeks. And so making sure that you know your sources and everything that you're putting in, because you could think you're getting a cover crop, but really what it is a nasty grass that's going to be not so beneficial to the cannabis plant versus more. You know, you always, like they were saying, the diversity is key. Making sure that you're not just doing one, you want to make sure that you're doing multiple, so that multiple allows for succession, and that succession of the microbes and the plants allows for that sustainable factor within your system. And really, that's the goal of organics, is to be sustainable in the end, because that's what's best for the planet. You know, with my journey, I'm from California. I surf all the time, and I hate seeing like the devastation of, after it rains, the pollution that goes into the water, all the nitrogen levels and phosphate levels from the runoff go up so quick. And you know, to think that we do that on such a large scale of hydroponics, just dumping out our nutrients into the system, is pretty gnarly. And so being organic farmers, we got a big role to be sustainable and to reel back all of that waste that's going on within the industry, and to kind of, you know, hone in and say, look, I can do this with less, you know, and definitely commend everybody out there trying to make the fight and grow organic, because it's not always the easiest way, for sure. It's you know, I'm sure Scott would say, like, fuck, it's a lot easier to drop a bomb in there and walk out of the room and kill some bugs. You know, it's a lot better, a lot easier to open up the bottle of newts and measure it out, pour it in, and walk away, you know. But having to be there and tend and really monitor and keep your system living and thriving, I know that takes a lot of work, and thanks to everyone, you know, commends to people who are fighting that good fight, keeping it organic. That's really the key, and that's why we're all here in the end, is to join together as a community and learn from one another, from our experiences, from our technology, from our genetics, from our, you know, and share as one, as a community, and lift each other. Because if we just kind of compete, yeah, this is a cup, and sure, it's a competition, and yeah, we're all about seeing who has the best product in the market, and that's all I want to see too. But as a group, as a community, we all lift each other up, you know, and we grow better product and better medicine, and then, you know, in turn, that just helps all the people that we hand it to the left, to the right, to our friends, to our family. You know, that's really the key to this movement, is bringing us together so that we can rise up and then go out and share that to the rest of the people, and help the world in the end. You know, that's what it's all about, you know. And I don't know if you guys have any questions for our company, OA, for Scott. You know, Mr. Spacebound and Down, he's kind of a legend. He's kind of a big thing. And you know, yeah, definitely. What time is it? Made that quick. Anybody got any questions or concerns? Yeah.
So, like, when people use salt, kills like biology in soil. So with your product, it's like ferment. Does it affect biology when you feed it, or like a certain amount?
Ours is total biologically safe and proactive. Ours will help to promote biological growth. When you use our FPF, which is a fermented grain, it has carbohydrates, simple and complex sugars, and those are microbial foods. Our humic acid has all sorts of you know, bonding points for microbes and fungals to chew on. So and then our fertilizer, kind of like you asked, our fertilizer does not, because our fertilizer, when we pull the nutrient out of the bacteria in order to get the fertilizer, it's riding in a carbon chain, not a salt molecule, not in a salt bond. And so when you use this fertilizer and it goes into the soil, the carbon allows it to be taken up by the plant without any energy exchange, whereas a salt needs water and energy in order to separate the ionic bond, and that costs the plant. So the plant is actually looking for this carbon all of the time, and this product is 33% carbon. So when you use our fertilizer, that's good for microbes and also for the plant. So yeah, no, you won't damage, but also, yes, salts, if it's used too strong, yeah, you will cook the membrane of bacteria and fungal for sure. You know, and you know, and yeah. That was a good long answer.
I really enjoy the fermented grain extract that you guys make. I haven't gotten a proper, I guess, I don't remember exactly how that was exactly recommended for usage. I guess I'll just ask that.
Yeah, so with the fermentations, a little bit goes a long way. You really don't need a lot,
because they're potent. Our FPF, we get 47% fulvic acid after we ferment the grains, and we get 18 amino acids and enzymes and all these beneficial elements to the energy and building, that energy management and energy production system of the plant. And so 1 milliliter per gallon is all you need with that, and using it as a foliar spray, because the fulvic acid will allow it to go straight through the cell walls with the minerals. So as a foliar spray, it's great, and also as a soil drench, both 1 mil per gallon, and on large scale ag, about a gallon per acre is all you need foliar sprayed or through the injector system. Yeah, it's really efficient, and yeah, so all the way around, 1 ml per gallon is all you need. And then I have people too that use it consistently if you have high alkaline water, because it is a slightly acidic, and it will help drop pH a little bit. So I have people that use it every watering as a little pH buffer, so they don't have to use too much more citric acid or any other like pH down, vinegar, whatever you're using. If you have high alkaline water out here, I'm not too sure, because you can get real technical with your grow by getting water tests and mineral, knowing what your water mineral content is and supplementing where you need it, and knowing your soil mineral content and supplementing it where needed. So yeah, using it as a little bit of a buffer is always good too. Yeah, but the foliar sprays, have you done it as a foliar spray yet?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
I've used that in castor.
Yeah, that's a great combo right there. I really like foliar spraying. My favorite foliar spray is combining our FPT, which is the humic acid, our FCB, which is the fermented castor bean, that, like I said, helps with the energy management of the plant and helps diffuse the sunlight. And that combined with our VN, so our fertilizers are actually really good for a foliar spray as well, because there is no salt in it. There's no energy exchange needed for the cell on the leaf tissue to pull in the nutrient as well. So you'll really see an instant effect when you foliar spray with the VN as well. That'll give you a quick boost of green for sure. Yeah, definitely want it. But you definitely don't want to foliar spray with every product out there, because you never know. But these ones are safe. Yeah, for sure. And then yeah.
Well, I was wondering why it smells like chocolate. Like, I use it and love it.
Yeah.
It kind of smells like chocolate.
Yeah. So chocolate is from a bean, and from almost a fermentation process, and so that little chocolatey is some of the amino acids, and some of that, it kind of, to me, it lends soy sauce chocolate and wine, and so that's the fermentation of the amino acids and whatnot. And then the molasses smell is the carbohydrates and the sugars that are produced from the fermentation process. So you get kind of a bouquet that comes out of the FPF, and it's all those different elements. And then if you even take a little bit and put it on your tongue, it's people take other forms of fulvic acid like shilajit and other mined forms. Those are all very good, but they could potentially contain heavy metals based on being mined out of the ground, where our FPF is very, very low and almost no heavy metals, being a plant derived. Yeah, so but yeah, I do a little bit, and it helps with your personal gut and mineral absorption as well. And that goes back to like what Gage said, don't give your plants anything that you wouldn't really want to give yourself, because in the end you're going to be ingesting it too. So that's it's that natural. It's all about come back to that natural spot. And then our FCB, Todd, his mother-in-law, castor bean, is because it's derived from castor bean, fermented castor bean, is used in other textiles such as like soaps and shampoos. And so she actually uses it in her hair, and says she gets great benefits to her hair from it because of the sheen. It gives it shine. I don't know, but I haven't done it yet. But yeah, so there's all these products are totally safe and good. Good to use. And then the microbial solution as well it's pretty amazing. I've worked with the microbial solution, and I'll have a cut on my hand, and I'll be working, and that cut may be infected, and then I'll go and be moving over to my brewer and put my hand in the brewer, and literally by getting that beneficial microbe, I feel it heal that infection on my hand from that cut, and it heals it, and for me that's obviously a sign that those beneficial bacteria have taken out whatever was making it swell and feel a little red and painful, in the inflammation. And we do a lot of tree work as well with the microbes, because in landscape settings, or we do a lot of landscape work with trees, they're really missing the biology around their base, and so we go and we inject the microbes around the base and give them foliar sprays. Well, we had somebody who actually had really bad acne and was doing foliar sprays, and he noticed when he foliar sprayed the trees, the bacteria or the microbial solution would land on his face and it would clear up his acne after he got done for long stints of spraying. And once again, goes back to the bacteria clogging the pores, and it cleared up his face. So yeah, there's once it's the same balance of plants in nature, human in nature. It's really similar systems that we're dealing with and able to fight off. The big push right now with health is the gut line, getting our gut liner healthy again. That's why we have so many illnesses, and obviously living an organic lifestyle is going to help repair that. But having that probiotic, kombucha and eating the mushrooms and making sure that you're getting those fungals in your diet, and making sure that you're consuming fruits and making sure that you're feeding, and because like Gage said, when you eat a fruit, you're fermenting that fruit in your stomach yourself, and turning it into a fermentation. So, it's really similar system correlating. Yeah.
I guess simple question: when you're not brewing like an actual tea, you're just using your regular inputs. Someone might ask me this question: and you guys are into the brewing systems. How long would you let it brew for?
24 hours.
Still run at 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, it helps biodiversify for sure.
Correct. Yeah, you can get splitting hairs all the way down to temperature affects that, elevation affects that. There's so many variables, but as a general rule, 24-hour brew, once you go over, that keeps you the best diversity for the plant. Yeah. Yeah. So we always start with our brew with a base microbe from our worm casting, because we know when we feed our worm casting, we feed them diet that excludes any landscape trimmings, because those can have pesticides, fungicides, herbicides. We don't give them any manures or biosolids also, because those can have E. coli or salmonella. So we're giving these worms a special diet to kick out a real potent casting. And so our biological set is always the same, coming from our casting based on our feed input on the worm farm. And so the way we feed the worms, we're actually kicking up certain microorganisms called chitin degraders and cellulose degraders or recyclers. And so these organisms go through and they eat sources of chitin and cellulose and exude the enzyme chitosan or chitinase, which is able to be uptaken by the plant. And so our goal is to increase our threshold of microorganisms, especially these recyclers in the soil. This is the really important microbe to help cycle nutrients and help break everything down. And then really important are these chitin degraders, because it's known that when these chitin degraders reach a certain threshold in the system, they create enzymes, and that is where the true plant defense that I spoke about earlier comes in, is through the enzymatic production of those recyclers. And so where the fungal are important and the bacteria are very important, the recyclers are equally as important. They're kind of a third category that's not talked about too often in a lot of writings, just per se. And so, the recyclers are very important to keep that nutrient cycle flowing, because they'll break down and they just eat things, and they're non-discriminatory predator microbes that chew.
So what are ways to encourage that category in your tea?
So for us, it's like I said, it's from the castings, the way we feed the tea. But a lot of people do, like insect frass is a known source of chitin. So build up your chitin, and that will help encourage the chitin degraders to have a food source. Correct. Other sources of chitin are shrimp shell, crab shell. Those are all. Chitin is a natural occurring protein within the world, and the oceanic chitin is the most abundant. But it's also the exoskeleton to our terrestrial insects as well, especially the chewing pests. And then so when we're able to create that threshold of chitinase production and cellulase production in the soil, that's when we reach that defense mechanism. Yeah, but so you definitely want to encourage it by having those chitin food sources present in the soil. That's why a sea blend is great to use. I mean, I love using kelp, I love using crab, I love using fish, I love using all those microbial food sources. definitely important to have. But I mean, you could throw in all the chitin in the world, but not have any chitin degraders. So your key is to get the chitin degrader moving and going, which is either time by cooking down the soil or through a worm casting, which the worm is able to produce. And knowing, it would take a biological test, but we could show you ours, and you could, grab a bag and brew it up, add that.
Is that the protozoa then? That's degrading that?
Yeah, it's like protozoa, exactly. Yeah, they're recyclers. They're forms of protozoas. Yeah. Another question?
Can you elaborate a little bit more about the inputs for your worm farm?
A lot of it's a proprietary blend beyond the exclusions, but we do compost our material prior to feeding because we use red wigglers. Red wigglers we use because they eat already decayed organic matter, and they consume the microbes off of that already decayed organic matter and create more microbes that decay more organic matter, whereas night crawlers are just chompers. They come up and they eat the organic matter itself and process that and give you a bigger casting. So we're using the red wiggler. That's to start there because of the way their digestive tract works, and then feeding them, composting, and then using that compost properly for the feed source, and then a couple other, like I said, just proprietary things. But really the key is that composting of the material, making sure that our input is equally as good for our output, because if we're giving them a big pile of manure that's unbroken down, they're just going to give me a pile of manure that's a little bit more broken down, and that's not, we want to actually, we're after a little bit more microbial value than what's present. Windrow, turn it, burn it, cook it down real quick as hard as we can. We actually inoculate that pile with our microbial solution. So what we've done at that point is we've taken our green piles and we've introduced our colonies of beneficials into the pile of compost before we've even given it back to the worm. So this is a super successive cycling, an introduction of microbes back from taking it from the casting, brewing it up into a liquid form, pouring it back onto that compost, so that compost breaks down with that set of biology present in it, and that biology, then that is fed to the worm, with that, and then we're able to get, so that's how the consistency stays present in the casting as well.
So I have kind of a similar sounding scenario where I have it's very small worm bin, but I found that digesting the inputs first in like another bin basically next to it, instead of putting raw like greens and browns and everything in your worm bin together, like letting it do its own thing and putting in what basically seems like already composted material.
Yeah.
Seem to eat that up really well.
Yeah.
I was just curious, about the input side, and it's interesting. It's been an interesting process. It's not just regulars, but it's I think like a variety of worm species or something.
I mean, the honest, once again, variety and diversity is key. If you're on your small scale able to produce like that, the biological values in there could be just off the charts that you're able to use. So
the other thing that kind of rhymes with what you were saying was I've been taking when I mix that bin, their next feedings worth in the side bin, I'll call it. I take some of the finished cast and put it in there with kind of like what you're saying.
Exactly.
Spraying your finished microbes back on the beginning of the cycle and hoping to steer it in the right direction.
Correct.
I mean, you're in charge. In our indoor systems, we have to play God. But our key is playing. For lack of a better term, God or influencer in there. Our goal is to mimic nature, kind of like what Steve said and it's been said in every other talk today. Is we want to mimic nature as much as we can, and being able to provide, nature has so much diversity and so much going on, and allowing your soil to be in charge, so that as your plant uses the nutrients and pulls in the atmospheric nutrients and exudes its waste, it's feeding that biology, which is feeding the next set of biology, which is cycling through the next set of nutrients to pull back in, to give back to that microbe, to back to that fungal, and push it back into the root again, to make sure that is just on such a flow. And that's really what our key is, to really make that system as efficient as possible. Yeah. And microbes are really the key to that efficiency, because they are the managers of the system. Kind of like I said before, that 4-box, where they make sure you've got your management system of your biology, your aeration, and your atmosphere all in check. Make sure you have your nutrients available for the plant, and make sure that you're providing sources of energy and cell production for the cell reproduction system of the plant, and all that, like I said, catered into whatever genetic of your cultivar is what'll give you the greatest success. Know your environment. You know, I mean, if you're just starting, don't expect to be successful. Kind of like Steve said, your first round. I mean, I don't know how many rooms I've stepped into and actually banged it out the first round. It's always a learning curve, you know, and you got to figure it out. So know your system and know your plant, and then know your input, and then you're able to create the best product at that point, for sure. Yeah, and then just keep growing and growing and grow bigger, you know. Don't be satisfied with what you have the first time. It's always, that's the great thing about growing, is we can always make a better product. You can never reach your personal best, you know. You can always do better, and I think that's what's so attractive to it, you know. And it's just it's everybody good luck and grow the best product you can. Right on. Let's burn one.